It is the first time we have ever seen the trades and major media organizations like Forbes covering the fact that Lucasfilm may have to forge a new way forward. President and head of the house that George built, Kathleen Kennedy, finally looking like she's retiring. Heading out the door, gone bye-bye, gone as far away as the galactic star cruiser is faded away from memory. Today we'll tell you the ramifications and what it means for the entertainment industry. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is a joy once again to be joined with you. Thank you for inviting us into your day. Sharing your day with you is honestly one of the greatest gifts that you could give, and we really do appreciate it. Folks, if you're not yet a subscriber of the channel, we hope to earn it. Kathleen Kennedy did not earn more time at Lucasfilm, although, in fairness, perhaps it was her time to go. Today we're taking a look at that, as well as lining up what we had heard with what is now being reported out of PUCK, that is Puck people, PUCK, what they've got their timeline, and it's looking like, well, they match up pretty darn well. And, by the way, we have to say that Kathleen Kennedy was indeed, as Chris Gore seemed to insinuate from Film Threat, looking for a win. It's just so sad that the acolyte did not give the win to her that she needed, and she will be going out in the cold without a single major victory. Who could have seen it coming? Well, you, me, and everyone on the right side of Star Wars history. We begin with thatparkplace.com, and we're going back to August 6th, 2024. Back on the website, it says Kathleen Kennedy ready to retire but is waiting for a win, according to Entertainment Analyst. Now, this was a scoop that Chris Gore from Film Threat had and passed it along. I just want you all to see, sometimes people know stuff, and sometimes the media doesn't go crazy about the stuff. And then there are other times when other people who are part of the official intelligentsia run a story and, well, everything breaks loose, such as what is happening right now with PUCK. I'm careful now about saying this word because YouTube algorithms sometimes misinterpret what I'm saying. Folks, you can figure it out. Switch the F, you get it? So we're not going to say it. We're just going to say PUCK, the thing you hit around in a hockey rink. No, not between US and Canada. They just hit faces. But anyway, Kathleen Kennedy to step down at Lucasfilm. We'll read it and we'll give you some major thoughts on this. After a mixed 13-year run, the legendary movie producer has informed Disney, as well as friends and associates, that she will exit as Lucasfilm president by the end of the year. We think we can get this down to the month. We'll tell you about it. It says it's happening. After years of speculation and polite urging from observers like me, Kathleen Kennedy has informed Disney, as well as friends and associates, that she will exit as Lucasfilm president by the end of the year, per 3 sources. Disney and Kennedy's personal publicist declined to comment. Not a huge shock, of course. Kennedy will be 72 in June, and the legendary movie producer will have run Lucasfilm for 13 years as George Lucas' handpicked steward under Disney. Bet he regrets that one. Kathy was actually planning to leave last year, I'm told, and had even set up an exit interview with a journalist, but she decided to stay for one more year. Before we go any further, Jonas, your thoughts on what we've just read so far?
It's interesting here. First of all, Matt Bellany is or Baloney, or however his name is pronounced. One of those is hilarious, by the way. It seems like he's trying to say he has been, just gently pushing here to say, maybe, Kathy, it's time to retire, as if the entire internet machine has not been calling for her to retire since, if not 2019, then definitely before here. I also think it's interesting that they talk about how last year Kathleen Kennedy was talking about retiring, which was the first time on this channel, by the way. If you match our timeline, we didn't push any Kathleen Kennedy is retiring stories. We reported on other people's Kathleen Kennedy retirement stories. But last year, and I don't have the specific video or the specific article here, that was the moment at which you, Pro, said that they were under contract negotiations, or they had set up the exit interview process for Kathleen Kennedy. Not that she would retire that day, but that they would talk about what her retirement would look like. And of course, everybody says, you guys have been saying this for years. No, I've been involved in this channel the entire time. We've never said Kathleen Kennedy is actually looking to retire. In fact, if I'm going to defend one more time, Pro, you were one of the people that said in the initial wave of Kathleen Kennedy retiring rumors, you were one of the people to say, I don't think it's actually happening. Now, you gave yourself a deadline of, I want to say, oh, wait, no, this might have been 2 years ago. You gave yourself a deadline of February of 2024 for it to come true and to apologize if you got it wrong. And you did apologize for getting it wrong, but you didn't say my reporting was incorrect. You just said that if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Well, it sounds like, according to this article, that Matt Bellany is saying, you were right. She just didn't end up going through with retiring.
You know, what you were talking about, Jonas, is that we would get the announcement by February of 2024, because the announcement precedes the exit, right? And this is what's so fascinating about what we're watching right now, is that Kathleen Kennedy has not been given the opportunity to get the announcement. Disney was not able to put out the statement. Baloney Bellany has managed, and I don't say that to denigrate, I say that to be humorous. He's put out the story before they had their PR machine do it. So guess what, folks? She backed it up 1 year, and it leaked out in February 1 year later. How good is this? Also, you want to see how good this is? Jonas, as you were talking, I looked up the video. Take a look at this, folks. 5 months ago, if anybody wants to figure out when that happened, 5 months ago from a February. Yep. The Acolyte was supposed to be Kathleen Kennedy's big win and exit. Lucasfilm now languishing. In other words, Kathleen Kennedy was supposed to leave with the Acolyte. It was supposed to be the big win. She didn't leave. She stayed on. This goes on and on. But let's get back to the story here.
Well, before we move on from Acolyte, I'm going to point out Kathleen Kennedy is not involved in Star Wars marketing, just as a rule. But Acolyte, she actually came out and talked about how important that series was and how she was the one who pulled Leslie Headland in to say, make this a Leslie Headland story. Nick, am I wrong on that?
No, you are 100% right. And she thought that this woke garbage crap, the Acolyte, that they were putting together was going to be some big hit, and it was a complete flop. Like, it was the biggest failure in Lucasfilm history.
But she's usually not there the one to actually talk about the series before they come out. Like, she's not bragging about most of them, but she came out for the Acolyte specifically to claim
hard. Yeah. She was really pushing that. She really likes Leslie Headland. And not only was that show a complete failure, they left it open-ended to continue the series with the season 2, which got announced was never going to happen. So it was a failure on every level.
Nick, you're wrong, Nick. Nick, it got an NAACP Image Award, sir. Come on, man. Yeah. Come on, man.
Yeah. So didn't Joy Reid get one of those too?
Too soon.
Joy Reid's in another segment, folks. Hang tight. Yeah. Let's go back to the PUCK article for a minute. It says Kennedy has been telegraphing her exit lately, selling her and her husband, Frank Marshall's Malibu house, offloading art, and talking to friends about working with Frank more. She's also been collecting career honors from everyone from the Austin Film Festival to the American Society of Cinematographers to this week's Oscar Wilde Awards in L.A. Yes, this does read like many of our videos recently telling you, hey, she sure is getting a bunch of awards all of a sudden, eh? Departing this year will allow a successor to handle the 2026 release of The Mandalorian Grogu. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is this thing going to be a steaming pile that someone else has to come in and be like, oh, no. The first Star Wars movie since 2019 is The Rise of Skywalker. All right, so let's think about this. Let me read the last part here. Who might Disney film chief Alan Bergman choose as Kennedy's successor? Just pause for a minute. I don't think it's just Alan Bergman. Let Listen, Bob Iger is going to have to be involved in this, and I also think Dana Walden likely has to be involved in this. This is a 3-person decision, and it's going to be fascinating to watch because they don't have good candidates. Who wants to come in to lead this kind of a Lucasfilm? Dave Filoni would be the top internal candidate, I'd surmise. I don't know why. I mean,
Yikes.
did Ahsoka give confidence?
No.
Assuming Jon Favreau has little interest. Who else? Let the speculation throughout the Hollywood galaxy begin. All right, so Kathleen does not get a win. The Acolyte that she worked on for like 5 or 6 years was a failure, huge flop. But that's not all. She also is out before the Mandalorian movie, so she doesn't get a box office win either. Her final film will go down as the documentary on John Williams on Disney Plus, and that's
which was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's as good a win as she's going to get, unless Andor season 2 defies its trailer.
Ooh, that trailer, by the way.
Oh, God.
I think as far as Succession goes, they have more names involved at Lucasfilm right now than they have in the past, but none of them are quote unquote Lucasfilm people. I hope it's not Dave Filoni, because that is the best example of failing upwards. He has a lot of Star Wars lore to his name, okay, but he also tends to focus on his people. So
he's good at cartoons.
Get ready for Ahsoka to be the main character of Star Wars if Dave Filoni gets in that role. But they've got Jon Favreau, who I don't think is going to be interested in running Lucasfilm. I mean, maybe it could happen. I'd be pretty happy if it happened. But then there are other names that are circling Star Wars right now, like Sean Levy, who is actually got a pretty poppin' career right now with Deadpool and Wolverine. He can do kids entertainment with the Night at the Museum films. He's not bad. He's not particularly great without Ryan Reynolds there. And then you have this other name that is floating around Lucasfilm that I personally would think he's like Sean Levy without the successes, and that would be Simon Kinberg, who was presided over the end of the X-Men franchise. So I don't think they have a lot of fantastic options that would actually want the job.
No.
I think the chances of a Rey movie just got much, much slimmer.
I would agree.
I mean, I don't know about you guys. My vote's for Ari Gold, played by Jeremy Piven in Entourage. Give it to him to run. Let him run Lucasfilm.
That'd be a better movie.
Yeah.
Vash, what they need to do is, you remember when they ran off the guy who had the mental disability in the White House? You remember they thought they were going to get to go to these primaries and pick the strongest candidate, and then he came out and blew the whole thing up by being like, well, Kamala, she's the one. Like 5 minutes after he announced. That's what Kennedy needs to do now. She's got this inglorious exit, so now she needs to be like Taika Waititi. He's the next film. I back him.
Oh wow!
Handpicked successor, right?
I'm sorry, Culture. I know you love Star Wars and we want to save it, but it's just too funny. You know what KK could do here? James Mangold, future head of Lucasfilm.
Oh no, not James Mangold. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, this is gonna be the question here, because who even wants to take this job? You see, I mean, look, like I was saying on That Park Bliss this morning here, this is what the patient needs, right? Definitely, for sure. But are you delivering the penicillin at a time when it's turned into a corpse? That's the issue. So who wants to necessarily step into that role and maybe be blamed for having that patient expired right there? Because I think the press and the larger public, I think they're mixed with their views on Kathleen Kennedy. But if somebody comes in and doesn't turn things around immediately, and this franchise continues to flounder or die off completely, now what do you do? How is that the person taking that role? The career prospects are destroyed at that point. So I think that's the big thing here. I would agree with you, Pro. I think all the projects on the slate right now, not including Mandalorian Grogu, that's probably definitely coming out in 2026, which is also very interesting about this announcement right here, because it is coming out in May. You would have thought that she would have stayed on at least to see that through. However, everything else on the slate, I think, is going to be completely destroyed. I don't see an executive coming in here and definitely want to make their mark, having to make their mark, maintaining those projects. And so that creates another round of speculation, which is where do you take this franchise going forward? Do you retcon what was done by Kathleen Kennedy? I think that's unlikely to happen. Or do you set out and I don't know, Knights of the Old Republic, maybe, perhaps? I'm not sure.
Well, they could have a Legends canon and stories we don't talk about canon.
Well, I just want to throw this out to the panel. Let me throw this out there. I don't know of anything for Disney Plus that's on the docket. Like long term, what is there? I think they've already cleared the deck for whoever comes in.
The biggest thing that they have got on the horizon is season 2 of Percy Jackson, which probably benefits from not being that closely associated with the Disney core brands.
And I would say Daredevil also.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yep. The early reviews on that one are hinting that it's actually pretty good.
I'm noticing that neither of those are Star Wars.
No.
But hey, Revenge of the Sith is going on 40X on April 22nd or 25th or something like that. So at least there's that. There will be a good Star Wars film releasing in theaters this year.
That's the win. We found it. That's the win.
Boom. All right. Culture was vociferous earlier when I said that Kathy may get out there and endorse Taika Waititi as the next head of Lucasfilm. Culture, you still care, sir. You still care, and I applaud you for it. So as someone who still cares about this beleaguered studio, what do you say is the solution? Because it's not like, this is a patient in critical condition. How do we revive it?
You actually have to have somebody who really cares about it and give them carte blanche and put no barriers in front of them and no mandates or anything else. It has to be somebody, because the direction for Star Wars has been to pick people who have no connection to it, never read anything about it, didn't watch the films. For example, people like the lady that did Acolyte, she had seen all the Star Wars, which she didn't see one of them. But
what's your favorite? All of them are my favorite.
Yeah, exactly. So look, it's that kind of a person. Well, Filoni is only in it for one character. I don't want to entertain his fetish for 7 or 8 movies. I think that's
you think he's in love with his own fictional character?
Yes, I do. And so did George,
wolves.
by the way.
Don't forget wolves. He also likes them.
Sure. Yeah, he's gonna Padme. What's her name? Ahsoka riding a wolf would be his favorite thing to do. But anyway, let's set that aside and just say the only person that I can see for this outside of Gilroy, maybe, and again, I'm going to get yelled at from some people, would be Favreau. I think Favreau probably is the only person. He's the only person that seems to understand Star Wars. He did from the very beginning with Mandalorian, but then obviously was led astray because he kept bringing back the little green thing that has now disappeared from anybody's interest. Do you have all these Grogu fans anymore? No. So Baby Yoda is only going to hold your attention for so long.
Let's be honest. Grogu is essentially Hello Kitty for Star Wars right now.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think Hello Kitty is probably more popular, but yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But as far as the Star Wars brand goes, there are fans of Baby Yoda, I got them mixed up there for a second. Fans of that merchandise that have no interest in Star Wars whatsoever, don't care anything at all about the Mandalorian as a character. They just like the cute Baby Yoda.
Sure. And so when you get down to it, I mean, Favreau kind of wanted to step away from that. Obviously, the powers that be wanted the merchandise, so we ended up with that garbage. But if you were to put him in charge of the whole kit and caboodle and leave him completely untethered and in control of not just Star Wars, but the entirety of Lucasfilm, I think he could reimagine it in a better way. I think we'd get a good young Indiana Jones again, something that would remind us of better days. I think you could get a relaunch of what Willow could be. I think there are several other ideas that are out there in the world for Lucasfilm beyond Star Wars, but I think the only guy for Star Wars is going to be Favreau. But you've got to give him carte blanche. There can't be any impediments placed in his way that kowtow to politics or ideologies or anything else. Star Wars is always best when it's moving forward with a hero character, and we haven't had a hero in Star Wars in a long time. We've just had the dissemblance and the destruction and the deconstruction of neo-Marxism from Ray forward. And that's everything that happened to Star Wars. There couldn't be a bad guy because when there are, excuse me, a good guy, because the bad guy has to be misunderstood and the good guys have to be put down the entire time. And that's all Kathleen Kennedy did during her period of time, with the exception of Favreau. Favreau was the only person to bring a positive story, a hero's journey back to Star Wars. And they once that was successful, Kathleen Kennedy put an end to it. So,
hey Ron, speaking of heroes, whoever comes in, they have the opportunity to right the ship when it comes to Disney. And the way they do that, before we ever get into recanonization and all of that, they call up Gina Carano and they say, listen, as part of this lawsuit and getting this thing settled, why don't you come in? We'd love to have you be in the Mandalorian movie. And they listen, they were reshooting this last Marvel movie right up till, the last month or so. They can make it happen. I don't think they're going to do it, but there's an opportunity here. I think they'll blow it. But Ron, how likely is it you believe that they try to make amends for what they've done?
Well, I mean, it's not impossible, but I was going to ask Coulter if he even thought that Jon Favreau would take the job if offered. I mean, I'm certain, amount of money and whatever. I don't know what his exit was like. I was looking, I don't know why I thought this, but somebody like who has been a director, who's one of the early directors of Mandalorian, like a Bryce Dallas Howard or something, because I know, horrible choice, obviously, but I'm just, Disney makes horrible choices, Culture. I mean, that's what they do. That's what they've been doing lately. So I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying that I don't see. It's hard for me to imagine Bob Iger or Kathleen Kennedy or anyone making a good choice for a successor to Kathleen Kennedy. Dave Filoni is probably highest up in the running and I think is the most likely to end up having it. I would love to see somebody who loves Star Wars lore, like a Lorne Connor or Star Wars theory, somebody who has Nick, somebody who has that love and passion, who is in the position to take that job, like Jon Favreau, for example, to be able to take it. I don't know who else is out there. I've been so checked out of Star Wars since Rise of Palpatine, I think, whatever that movie was. I've been so checked out. I came back in for Mandalorian. I love season 1 and season 2. And as soon as they let go of Gina Carano, I'm like, that's it. I'm done. No more Star Wars for me after that, because the way they let her go, why they let her go, the fact that she actually had a matching Twitter post by Pedro Pascal on the other side, and yet he stayed. It was baffling to me. And I'm like, these decisions were just god awful on the part of Disney. I don't understand what happened to Kathleen Kennedy unless she was, and I say that from looking at her past before any of this happened with Lucasfilm. Her name is associated with so many amazingly good projects from the past that I just don't understand what happened, why she didn't take that experience with her. Or did she just hate her incredibly successful career before this and all the incredibly successful projects that she was a part of? Did she just hate all of that and then just turn on it? I don't know what happened. It's just very, very strange to me, because Star Wars should be a beloved IP today, and it doesn't have that magic anymore. It's like everything that was Disney magic has been killed over the last 15 years.
Well, that's a good point you make, Ron, because like somebody's shield, in which they were handed from somebody else, that might explain the successes of Kathleen Kennedy, because she's one of the most prolific producers out there for sure, but was her career trajectory more shaped by the people she was with or by herself personally? That's the interesting thing. And also, too, Culture, before I give it to you, one of the things I would do, the very first thing I would do if I were to come into the seat, is bring back Gina Carano. Just let everybody, there's a new era, a new day. Go ahead, Culture.
No, I just wanted to add to what you were saying. She was surrounded by better men. Sorry.
Ouch.
Yeah, and that's the problem. We put Kathleen Kennedy in a position of leadership and as the standout for all women everywhere, and that's how she promoted herself and Star Wars. She has left a bad taste for female studio heads in everybody's mouth. Okay. And she was manipulating Star Wars from the very beginning to take it from a boys brand to a girls brand. And all of that backfired and destroyed something that had been worth maybe about $3 billion, not $4. I'm sorry, George. I apologize, but it's true. And you've run it down to, I don't even know if it's worth $1 billion these days. I don't know if they'll ever recover the money. Well, at least not in this era that we've just been in. There was no chance of them recovering the money that they spent on this property. In fact, they just kept piling more and dumping more into a giant hole called Star Wars that they just kept digging deeper and deeper. So there you go.
I, for one, cannot wait for the day that she retires and suddenly the legacy media decides it's time to stop defending The Last Jedi and defending Rise of Palpatine and all that. The narrative will switch, folks, and they'll say that they were always saying what we've been saying as soon as Disney tells them it is the staying power they need to project. By the way, in addition to destroying billions and billions and billions of dollars, she also gave us Pedro Pascal in literally every movie and show on television and the silver screen. So, yeah, it's there's not a win to be found here, folks. There's just not a win to be found. And folks, let the credits roll for this one. Well, it is in the bank. We are done here. We're over and out. But before we go, there's one thing we must shout to you, and we do it in the kindest way possible. Folks, it would be such a pleasure if you could consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and that notification bell. Click it, stick it to the algorithms. You bet. Don't forget also, as you get ready to leave, drop a comment down below if you have not yet, for we would love to know what's on your mind. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, so waste not yours. Join a community dialogue. Folks, as we get ready to leave, we say to you, and we mean it, keep learning, keep growing, and no matter what the world might do or what your station might be, up or down, you keep having fun.
Jump into Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro Channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun. Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.